and welcome to another Evan Writes Cars video review. My name is Evan, and this is my video review of the 2017 Chrysler Pacifica minivan. You may remember the Chrysler Pacifica as being the conventional two-row CUV from the early 2000s, but what they've done is for the newest redesign of the Town & Country, dropped the name Chrysler Town & Country, renamed it to the Pacifica. Not really sure why. I guess they figured it was time for an image change, and a name that people know a little bit is better than a name that people don't know at all. But that's what this is. It's a 3-row, 2-sliding door, hatchback, seating for 7 minivan. And a lot of you are probably thinking, oh great, a minivan. But I've never really understood that. I've driven a lot of 3-row SUVs, with a few exceptions, namely the Suburban, the Excursion, other things that are the size of a small house. None of those 3-row sport utility vehicles actually have enough room for people in row 2 and certainly row 3. I mean, there's some where I can't put my shoe sideways between the back of the second and the front of the 3rd row, let alone put a person in there. This is a van that has comfortable room in every row. I can sit in any of the 3 rows with the seats in any position, and it's great. The middle row reclines, the back row reclines, the middle row's even got heated seats. All those things are really great. Your average 3-row full-size SUV won't hold an 8-foot length of lumber in the back. How much utility are you looking at there? This will hold an 8-foot board with room to spare. It'll certainly hold a 4x8 sheet of plywood, although I don't know if it'll hold it flat. You might have to angle it a little bit, but it'll definitely go back there. In this van, you don't have to remove all the seats for that space. This has got stow and go for the 2nd and 3rd row. What that means is you can actually just fold the seats down into the floor. They disappear. You can even use that space for cargo if you've got the seats up. It's really quite neat. The back row is a power fold. So you push a button, the headrests pop down, the seats go into the floor. You push a button, the seats come back up. It's all pretty neat. The middle row you have to do manually, but it's not exactly difficult. I can do it with one hand. I'm sure most people can with both, no problem. You push a button to power the seats, the front seats forward, pull a little thing on the floor comes up, seats fold down. It's pretty great. The seats are, of course, configurable, so you can put, any two, you can put whichever ones you want folded down or folded up. They're independent, which is nice, which is handy depending on strange sizes of things you're taking, how many people you're taking, etc. With all the seats in place, with all the seats occupied, there's actually a fairly large storage well in the floor in the rear where the seats would go, but you can use that for storage, which means that even with all the seats occupied, there's enough room for luggage. It looks like you could probably fit the better part of a week's luggage for the 6 adults that you'd be most likely to be carrying in this, and that's again, that's pretty handy. This van has Chrysler's 3.7 liter V6. It makes the better part of 300 horsepower, the better part of 300 torque. It has the Chrysler's 9-speed automatic transmission, and it all just works fairly well. The engine's not the quietest, it's not the most refined in the world, but it's never offensive. You just notice it's there. The transmission is smooth, the transmission is normally seamless. Occasionally you'll get a clunky shift, but it's not common. It's fairly rare for that to happen. There's a bit of a whine from the pump or something in the transmission you can hear under hard acceleration. But again, it's there, but it's not offensive. It's not intrusive. They've done a great job of sound deadening in this van. It used to be, in any minivan, especially if the seats were folded down, it was just an echo chamber. You could hear all the noises. You could hear gravel hitting the back. You could just hear everything. This is very quiet, even with all the seats folded down. And I've got most of them folded down right now. There's no echoes. There's no noise. It's a quiet place to be. It's at least as good as it's definitely on par for the class. The ride and handling, this rides like a minivan. which is to say that it is a little bit worse than your average sedan, better than most three-row CUVs. It can be a little bit bouncy over bumps, but nothing annoying, nothing that's going to give anyone car sickness or anything like that. Just some slight bumps that most likely go away when you've got a little bit more cargo in here. It soaks up bumps. It doesn't roll too badly. I mean, it does. It will list a little bit in some hard turns, but it's not too bad. It's not going to knock anybody out of their seat. It's probably not going to spill anybody's milk. This van has the upsized tires, which means 245 series tires on 20-inch rims. That's a really big tire for this kind of vehicle. It's a really big tire for anything. But this, even with those big tires, the van often, even with those big tires, the van often fights for traction when you're accelerating, especially from a stop. With this much torque and the tires it's got, anything more than a modest attempt to pull away from a stop sign or the end of a driveway or something like that, where you're accelerating and turning, you're going to spin the tires and you're going to chirp the tires, which is a little bit unseemly in a minivan, but it's kind of fun. The way this transmission's programmed is also interesting when you're pulling away from those. It doesn't seem to start off in first or second, maybe second. But what happens is when you accelerate quickly away, it'll stay in the same gear from go all the way up to 90 or 100 kilometers an hour when you normally lift off, and then it shifts. And it does that all in one gear. It's not slow, as a result of that. It's just an interesting way of programming it. But they must be doing something right, because with this power, with this programming, and I'm not driving, I'm not just putting around. I do drive relatively quickly, not overly aggressively. But I'm getting 10 liters per 100 kilometers, which is, that's better than the Highlander Hybrid. And that's the other thing. It's better than what I got in the Highlander Hybrid, I should say. And it's much better than I got in the Mazda CX-9. And that's the other big thing with minivans, is that they actually have the room that you want in an SUV. They actually have the utility that you want in an SUV, and this one even has a trailering package. But they get better mileage than an SUV. So if you can get around the look, and this isn't a bad-looking vehicle, you'll find a really great car, one that does what you want it to do, but for some reason you won't buy. And logically, it doesn't really make sense to me. I understand that car buying is never really a logical thing, though, and that's the reason why minivans are not popular anymore and three-row SUVs are. It's also actually possible to get into the third row in this, which in a lot of CVs that can be almost impossible as well. This van is limited trim. That's the top trim. It is very well equipped. It has Napa leather seats in a really nice brown. They're perforated, they're ventilated seats, and they're heated seats in the front row. They're both. The middle row is heated. The back row is neither. The back row does have power recline. But they're really comfortable seats. You sit upright, you get a very good view of the road. It's got a really thick steering wheel. I almost can't get my whole hand around it where the kind of handhold points are. And it's nice. It feels really good. It's really easy to control. This has HID headlights, automatic lights, automatic wipers, LED fog lights. It has power tailgate, power sliding doors, I mentioned power folding rear seats. It has Uconnect with navigation. It's also got the Uconnect Theater, which gives you two great big TVs for the middle row, a Blu-ray player that you can play on 1, 2, or all 3 screens. You can play it on the front touchscreen. Wireless headsets, a Harman Kardon stereo that sounds really good. And again, a minivan isn't the best soundstage, but this sounds pretty good. it sounds amazing considering the vehicle that it's in. And the limited model, this isn't cheap. This car stickers for around $62,000. That's with about $10,000 worth of options on it, including the Uconnect theater, which is the TV screens. It's also got a full safety suite. It's got radar cruise control. It's got lane guidance. It's got a surround view camera, which is really neat. It's also got automatic parking, so it can park in a parallel or a perpendicular space. The one thing I've noticed with that, though, is that the lines, and this is common to a lot of those systems, the lines have to be really clear or it's not going to be able to park in the spot. It won't be able to figure out where the spot is. So if your parking lot's a little faded, you might have a little trouble with the system. This is the 2017 Chrysler Pacifica. It's very good at what it's intended for. That is hauling a lot of people and a lot of stuff very well with a lot of room and good comfort. It's not a corner carver. If you throw it into a bend, it will understeer quite quickly. But along with the low traction at low speeds, both of those can probably be fixed with an upgraded set of tires. So that might be on near the top of your list when if you pick one of these up. If I had a little bit more time, I think this would be ideal, especially one with a vacuum, would be ideal for car camping because you can put a mattress back there and it'll fit quite well. You've got sunshades to keep people from looking in, and again, a ton of room for your stuff. So, some fun ideas for things you can do with this van. All right, so thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like or subscribe. Leave your comments below, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.